Hey transformative leaders and trauma survivors, it's sophilialarkwoodbury of thehappymedium.com. Now, if you've lived for any length of time, it's more than likely you have experienced trauma. But what happens when a traumatic experience turns into depression? In this video, I will be discussing trauma-induced depression and 3 practical treatments that actually work. Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me today. If you are new here, it is a pleasure to have you here. And before we dive in, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss a video each time I upload new content on Wednesday. So trauma can actually result from any event or a series of events that a person experiences as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening. Those events can be anything from sexual assault to natural disasters to mass shootings to the sudden and unexpected loss of a loved one. It can even be things like multiple pregnancy losses or continued failed infertility treatments. And a person can have various reactions to that traumatic event. Anything from anxiety to panic attacks to hypervigilance, nightmares and flashbacks. I'm trying to think of, say, hot flashes for some reason. They can have full-blown PTSD, or even what we're talking about today, depression. So the research actually shows that the brain chemistry actually changes in response to a traumatic event, which makes it very difficult for a person to simply get over it or ride it out. And this may require that a person actually goes to therapy or seeks some type of psychiatric service to be able to learn effective coping strategies to help manage the symptoms from trauma-induced depression. So here are 3 practical ways that actually work to help a person heal from trauma-induced depression. So the first treatment is interpersonal psychotherapy. This is a time-limited, evidence-based treatment that focuses on the here and now. It was developed by Drs. Gerald Klerman and Mary Weissman. And basically, it is dealing with how a person can, through the lens of the social and relational, interpersonal context, understand the problems that they're dealing with. So it identifies initially the role that the person may be in. So a person may be in a grief role where they're mourning or grieving a loss of a significant other of that type, or it could be that they are in a role dispute where they are maybe fighting or struggling with a significant other or someone close to them. It could be a boss, it could be a relative of some kind, or they might be in a role transition. Now, role transition, that deals with a major life change. So maybe the person's had a new baby, they've gotten a divorce, maybe they've lost a job, those kinds of things. And so once the person has identified what role they are in, based on the extensive history and assessment that the clinician takes of the person's presenting issue, and the sort of an initial understanding of the diagnosis, then they're able to formulate a case and design a plan to help that person resolve that issue. This treatment is particularly, I think, attractive for people. Research shows that this particular treatment is attractive to people who may refuse exposure-based treatments like a CBT type of interventions, and people who just don't respond to exposure-based therapies. It is also has been found to be especially effective for people, highly traumatized individuals who dissociate. They space out and kind of go to a different place in their mind, who may be more attuned with affect-based treatment than the more exposure-based CBT type stuff. The second treatment is grounding and safety techniques. Now you can learn these in therapy, or you can learn it from pretty much anywhere nowadays with the internet around. But especially in therapy, to learn to do them in the way that they were designed to do, and then you can take these out into the community and any setting that you may be in where you may start to feel numb or tense or uncomfortable or overwhelmed with emotional content that's going on. So the first one is actual grounding. Grounding is basically used to self-soothe when you are feeling sort of overwhelmed or really tense, or maybe you're just like, I can't really feel anything, especially if you are around people you don't know, or you're in a large crowd, or those kinds of things. You can ground yourself. I did a video, I'm not exactly sure which video it was, but I'll find it and I'll put it in the cards. But I did a practice called 3-2-1 senses. Lose your mind, come to your senses. And it was basically a grounding technique to help a person to focus on the here and now, and not to allow the past to come forward and to hijack the experience that you're having in the present. And so that can be one. Another one can be safe place. Safe place is a really good one. When I worked with kids, I often taught safe place as a physical place. But for adults, I think it's important to really understand that also in a felt way. So when we are building a safe place for our bodies, we are anchoring, we are solidifying a feeling of safety within our bodies, so we can have a felt sense of it, so we can know what that feels like to be okay wherever we are if we're starting to feel uncomfortable. Another one is resource building. We call building your resource inventory. And these things can consist of external resources as well as internal resources. So your internal resources would be things like visualization, imagination, getting yourself to a place where you can self-soothe. It can be, things like meditation. External resources are more things that I always say people, places, and things. So family, friends, places you can go to sporting events or stores or whatever is going to help you, really focus on what you're doing now, what you're doing here and now, and not just allow your mind to kind of take you in places that you don't want, to dark places that you don't want to go. So it could be things like that. And then that really leads to body awareness, the next technique that you can use to really attend to your posture. Now, body awareness, I put this one last because I think that this one is important to really understand that it can bring up all kinds of feelings of sadness, of grief, of fear. And so basically with attending to posture is that you are opening your body up to allow the flow of life, the force of life to flow through you. And the basis of that is that we understand that trauma really shapes our body. Trauma really makes the body tense up and close. And, we can't really resolve the tension and the sensory damage that has been done. When we are doing attending to body posture, body awareness, we're opening the body back up so that we can experience the full range of what it feels like to go about in this present world. But that can be scary, and the body can sense that. Sometimes it can be scary, sometimes it can bring up sadness, feelings of grief, and so it's important to have those other resources already developed, so that if you have to shut down the body awareness activity because it's becoming too much, then you can simply return to grounding, self-soothing yourself, visualizing or safe place, accessing those resources, internal and external resources. And the last treatment that we'll discuss today is medication. Now, I want to issue a caveat here because I am not a medical doctor, so that means I'm not qualified to give medical advice or suggestions. And although I am not a big proponent of a medication first approach, I do realize that there are people out there who just simply cannot achieve brain chemistry balance without medication intervention. They just can't get over that hump. And since depression is a brain chemistry, a chemical imbalance in the brain, it makes sense that a medication intervention would help them, especially if the other treatments are not working. So this is a treatment that absolutely can work, especially if a person is not able to, despite the treatments that they've had in therapy or the grounding techniques that they've used, they just can't seem to get over that hump. And so medication can work in this way. And, you know, although it's trauma-induced, the main diagnosis is still depression. So depression is what is causing the impairment or the dysfunction in their life. And so that's the focus of treatment, thus the appropriate, as deemed by a doctor, a medical doctor, who can diagnose and prescribe medications. So now you know 3 practical treatments that work for trauma-induced depression. If you want to learn more about trauma-induced depression, I have linked below in the description some research articles related to that. And you can also access my free guides and resources, also linked below. Well, that will do it for today. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and drop a comment to let me know your particular concerns, your feedback, even some of your challenges. I'd be happy to converse with you. And don't forget to connect with us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And last but not least, subscribe to my channel. Hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so that you'll never miss a video when I upload new content on Wednesday. I'll see you guys next time.